Lately, my body has been sending me clear messages with fatigue, aches, that constant feeling of being on the edge of sick. So I finally listened, and it all pointed to one thing: my stress levels are completely out of balance. So I'm sharing my honest journey and the practical steps that I'm taking to lower cortisol and cultivate peace this season. All right, so I do have notes that I will be looking at. So my weight has been creeping up. I have been experiencing fatigue. I've started in the last couple of weeks experiencing fatigue during an exercise class. My sleep has been terrible, taking longer to fall asleep and then waking up in the wee hours of the morning. And then I've been waking up in the mornings with muscle and joint pain. And then, of course, I get that after I've been sitting. Like when I get up from here, from this desk, I will have stiffness and achiness in my joints, particularly my hips. I've been having some skin eruptions breaking out, and I've been having this constant feeling of on the edge of getting sick. So just all of these little things that have just been having me feel like I'm on a downhill slide for the last 2 or 3 weeks. Some things maybe probably been going on a little bit longer. And then I had an aha moment the other day as I was on Instagram, and there was this post talking about symptoms of high cortisol. Every one of those things that I just mentioned is on that list. Knocking over my water. Every one of those things. And so I really sat with that and thought, okay, I talk about cultivating peace. I talk about the importance of mindset. Just in the last video I did, I talked about being very intentional with what you say yes to this time of year with so many extra things going on with the holidays. And I realized I am not taking my own advice. So here I am. So my body has been, all of these symptoms are not, my body is not sick, even though I described it, that feeling of being on the edge of getting sick. That's my body trying to find its balance, find its homeostasis with all of the extra things that we have going on. And I've done a video on this in the past, but I'll real briefly say my husband lost his job in April, and we have really been in a season of a lot of recalibrating, soul searching, what are we doing, and ultimately have been directed to my husband starting his own business, which has led us to finding a new property that we're going to be moving to, and we're getting really, really close to moving. So that's just a really sum up of just a lot of extra stuff going on in our life lately. And so I've just realized that I've gotten myself out of balance in how I am processing and dealing with all of these things. And so stress is not necessarily a bad thing, and cortisol is not a bad thing. Cortisol is part of our natural circadian rhythm. And so the problem is not the cortisol itself, it is the things in our life that get it out of balance. So this is kind of where I am, in a place when the cortisol is high nighttime when it's supposed to be low. So my circadian rhythm is off, and this kind of chronically high and out of balance cortisol is contributing to a lot of other issues that I've been dealing with. And so I decided to share that here because I know a lot of us are dealing with this. A lot of us have kind of chronic stress going on in our lives, and we may not be connecting the dots to realize that a lot of symptoms and fatigue and things that we're dealing with may be connected to that, connected to our lifestyle. So, like, we have all this extra stress right now, but it's coming from positive things. Like God's moving us in new directions and lots of exciting things. But change is hard, even if it's coming from a positive place. And transitions can be hard. Moving from one house to another is hard. So we decided, I'm so grateful for this decision. My husband was really trying to get us to where we could move in and have Christmas in the new house. And so we are not doing that. So I'm very thankful for that. We are going to have one more Christmas here, but then we're going to be like right after Christmas, really packing up and getting ready to move everything from this house over to the next house, and then figure out how to do that. My husband has been remodeling the kitchen in the new house, and we're at the point where he's like, okay, I'm going to need to know how you want to organize this space, and what kind of cabinets do you want here, and what color do we want the cabinets to be, and what color paint do we want to put on the walls. And I'm just like, ah! So a lot of things. I'm kind of easily overwhelmed, so here I am. And I have personal goals of improving my fitness. So in November, I actually started an exercise class, and it's been great. It's a great class. I was really enjoying it. The last couple of weeks, it started to feel really hard, and I didn't want to quit. I didn't want to quit just because it felt hard. But what I had to realize was the reason that it was feeling hard, and it was associated with a lot of the other things that I was dealing with. It has to do with the chronic stress and the out of balance cortisol levels. So I finally made the decision to step away from that class. And I have other things in order to prepare for us to get moved over to the other house. We're actually moving over there before the kitchen's done. So we're going to be living with like the crock pot and a travel burner thing. So just things like that. So I was like, okay, I need to get freezer meals ready to have for that period of time before the kitchen is finished. So I was kind of stressing myself out with setting deadlines, like I got to have all these freezer meals figured out and put together, and then I'm going to make a video about it. So I need to have them done in time for the video, which was supposed to be this video right here that I'm making right now. So I had to come to terms with that. Okay, I still have more time to get freezer meals together. I can be a little bit more intentional about it and not rushed and adding more stress to myself. So this video today is not about the freezer meals. So, and I talk a lot about the main way we cultivate peace is through our relationship with God, and the importance of spending that time with God every day. And I've been doing that. I started on December 1st reading a chapter of Luke every day. It's like a little Christmas tradition, because Luke has 24 chapters in it. So you start on December 1st and you finish it on Christmas Eve. And I have listened to a chapter of Luke every day, but I was realizing it's not been in that relationship cultivating kind of a way. It's been more in the let's get this checked off my list away. So that's not how you cultivate peace. So treating my Bible reading as a task. And then of course the people pleasing. I was just being afraid to disappoint people by saying no to things or stepping away from things and things like that. So I've had to come to terms with all of these kinds of things. The problem is not the cortisol. The problem is when our lifestyle gets this rhythm of when the cortisol is supposed to be high and when it's supposed to be low, when that gets out of balance. And when you start being in this state of chronic stress, that is what happens. From this nonstop doing and being in a rush and trying to do too many things, which is where I have been at. And that wreaks havoc on every system in your body, which is why it leads to some of these symptoms that I have been dealing with, like not sleeping and waking up with the aches and the pains and having the fatigue. It's a physiological response that your body is making to the environment that it finds itself in. So what I'm doing, need to recalibrate is what I need to do to bring that balance back in. So I made the hard decision to decide to step away from that class. I do need to be moving. I do need to be doing the strength and the weight training in order to meet my fitness goals. But I had to kind of strike the balance there. It's like this class right now is causing extra stress because I have all these extra things that I need to be doing. So I need to step away from that. And I do have some other fitness options that I can do to fit in with everything else that we have going on in order to still meet those fitness goals and still maintain my body, my health. But trying to do an extra class that I needed to get to that maybe was keeping a pace that my body wasn't up for because of the extra stress in our life right now, was not actually going to meet my long-term fitness goal. So I made the decision to step away from that. I need to reframe my devotion time to get away from that checking off the list thing and more into sitting with Jesus and not rushing through that. I really need to have that time more. It seems counterintuitive, right? I have so many things to do. I don't have time to pray. No, I have so many things to do. I need to make sure I take time to pray and to be with God and to sit with Jesus. I need to be Mary and not Martha at this time in the day. There's time in the day to be Martha doing all the things, but I shouldn't rush right into that without taking some time to be Mary and to sit at Jesus' feet. That is so, so important to keeping that balance and maintaining that peace so that we aren't having this chronic high stress going on in our lives. So that's one thing. And then I'm just trying to simplify my goals. Yes, the freezer meals, great idea. But I need to have some grace with myself on how I put those together and maybe not feel like I need to have one for every single day because I don't really know how many days I'm going to need them for. And I'm sure that I will be able to figure out a balance there of how I can prepare. Yes, having some freezer meals, but yeah, I'm probably going to have to do some other kinds of meals too and figure that out and have grace for myself and for my husband as we walk through that. And always remember that this too will pass. We will get on the other side of this. And rest. And it's really so closely tied together. The cortisol and the rhythm, the way it's supposed to rise during the day and go back down at night, that's part of it. And so I need to bring that back in balance so that I can get the rest that I need, the restorative sleep that I need at night. Getting outside in the morning and getting some sunlight. We're having a wet, dreary day right now, but I still need to make sure I'm getting out there and letting that early sunlight within the first half hour of sunrise, get that into my eyes because that actually helps set that circadian rhythm so that between the cortisol and the melatonin being high when they're supposed to be high and low when they're supposed to be low. So getting outside in whatever kind of sunlight we have, nourishing. I want to maintain my focus, which is one reason I wanted to do the freezer meals, on getting whole foods that nourish and support my body. This is so important, especially when we have a lot of extra that brings added stress into your life. You need to be making sure that you're giving your body the support that it needs. And then I've been looking at adaptogens. Have you heard of the adaptogens? This is some herbs that actually help the body adapt to and resist stress. Some of them are ashwagandha. You may have heard of that. And I had some tea this morning that included some ashwagandha in the blend. And so I have that. I have not ordered this yet, but there's one called rhodiola rosea. I've used that in the past when we were going to go into the mountains to try to help your body adapt to the altitude. And another one that's helpful for that is ginseng. And I think ginseng is one that also helps your body dealing with stress. So ashwagandha, rhodiola, ginseng, and then green tea has something in it called L-theanine. And I know today I've had a cup of matcha. So that's two. That's 2 cups of tea I've had. I had a tea blend that included the ashwagandha and then some matcha that has the L-theanine. And then, of course, getting vitamin C. And when we say vitamin C, you tend to think about, yes, oranges, drink orange juice. But you know what the best source of vitamin C is? it's sauerkraut. So it's great. If you're eating a lot of good, whole, nutritious foods and getting a lot of different colors in through the vegetables and the fruits, you're going to be getting some vitamin C and lots of other good vitamins and things that you need. So that is good. So this is just things that I'm looking into, trying to make sure, okay, I've got this channel, Holistic Christian Living. So that's always my goal, is to be thinking about the best choices that we can make on what kinds of foods we're buying and making and how we're preparing them. So I want to maintain that and continue that. And then, I talked about being intentional about what you say yes to. I'm really looking at my schedule. And I talked about breathing. And I'm trying to incorporate this more, especially at bedtime, to do the box breathing. So just really slowing down your breathing. And I know my chiropractor did a class on sleep recently, and she talked about the box breathing, and usually it's kind of the same, breathe in for 4, hold for 4, breathe out for 4, and hold for 4. And she talked about how it actually helps, is even more calming as when you do the breathe out for longer. It's like maybe 6 or 8. So breathe in for 4, and then you're holding, that's slowing that breathing cycle down, and then exhale for a longer time, and then hold before you take another inhale. So I'm working on that. Yeah, so this is when you get into this chronic stress state that I found myself in. It's something that has come from lifestyle, how you're responding to life, how I am responding to life, and all of the extra things that we have going on. So it's not a quick fix thing. We're not just going to take a pill or, say, okay, I did this one thing, everything's all fixed now. It's a process of me recalibrating and rebalancing, adjusting my habits. Let's work through the pillars. I'm going to maintain my mindset by staying plugged in to Christ and keeping my relationship with God as a priority and the most important part of my day, because that is where I get peace and strength and energy for everything else, and the motivation and the right thinking for everything else I need to do. It's your mindset and then movement. And yes, I am moving. I have that dog who is absolutely adamant about getting his 2 walks every day. And so I'm going to be doing some little bit of at-home strength training instead of going to the exercise class. Working on making sure I don't want to fall into any traps of getting a lot of fast pre-prepared foods that are bringing in toxins and things like that. Well, one thing I talked about in the last week's video about for doing things for Christmas to make sure we're not using toxic ingredients, and then the nutrition. So mindset, body care, toxins, and nutrition. I got to work on all of that for myself. That's what I talked about. And sometimes we got to turn around and preach it back at ourselves. So that's where I am at today. Preaching it back at myself, recalibrating and adjusting my own habits to accommodate this current season that we're in. So I will be taking a couple weeks off. Christmas is next week, you guys. We have Christmas, and then the week after Christmas is New Year's Day. So I would like to come back, but we're going to see. It might be another week or so before I get back here with the video. I'll probably have some posts along the way. Maybe I'll do some shorts. I don't know. So that's another area that I'm giving myself grace and stepping back. I have tried different things once I knew we were heading into this season. I tried some live streams and things like that in order to keep showing up. And I do want to keep showing up, but I think at least for the holidays, maybe a little bit longer, I'm going to take some time off and not try to make some videos and be spending a lot of time in that time that I spend where I sit with Jesus, really praying for the direction for 2026 to go with this channel and other things that I've got going on. So yes, it is a journey, and I'm going to have good days and I'm going to have hard days. I'm going to have days where I'm doing great and days when I drop all the balls. I know, and that's why I got to give myself grace. And this is what I preach when I'm working with clients and on these videos. Give yourself grace. We're doing our best with what we know and understand today. And then we got to trust God with the rest. And that's why it's so important to keep our mindset plugged in to that relationship with Christ. So we're stewarding our bodies, we're stewarding our minds, and we're stewarding that relationship with God. And the relationship with God is where we get that peace that passes understanding. So I am practicing right now, listening to my body and the clear signals that it's sending me that I have gotten myself out of balance. And that is my encouragement for you as well. Listen to your body, give yourself grace, and make adjustments as needed, just like I'm doing. And we can talk more about it. I would love to hear from you. And we can chat about that. It's helpful sometimes to have somebody to chat about these things with. So we are so close, 2 weeks away from the end of this year, heading into a new year. There's nothing really magic about that, but it's an opportunity to kind of, especially as we're in the winter season in North America anyway, the new year does provide an opportunity to reflect. And I'll probably come back with a video more about reflecting on the past year, what I've learned through this season, and kind of where I feel God directing me into the new year. But always, God is always with us, walking through all of our seasons with us and giving us the strength that we need for whatever He's called us to. So we can count on that. So I'm going to wrap that up and say have a wonderful rest of the day, and I look forward to hearing from you down in the comments.